members of the diplomatic corps, that is ambassadors, high commissioners, representatives of international organizations, and honorary consuls, assemble before the sitting president to deliver goodwill messages from their respective governments and to receive same from him. This year's is unique and momentous on account of the fact that it is the very first to be held under the auspices of the President, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. It is thus an honor for me to welcome you all, particularly as we, the NPP administration, work at deepening bilateral relations and explore new options of engagement with the international community to our mutual advantage and the benefit of the ordinary Ghanaian. At this juncture, I shall seize the moment to thank you for honoring the invitation and would wish to assure you of our cooperation and support towards further strengthening of the cordial relations that so happily exist amongst us. You are welcome, Akwaaba.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, I, on behalf of the entire diplomatic corps accredited to the Republic of Ghana, and on my own behalf, I take this opportunity to convey from our respective heads of state and government, heads of international organizations and consular missions that we represent here in Ghana, including His Excellency Comrade Robert Gabriel Mugabe, President of the Republic of my own country, Zimbabwe, whom I represent before I am Dean of the Diplomatic Corps. To you, Your Excellency, the First Lady, Mrs. Rebecca Akufo-Addo, and the First Family, and through you to the government and people of the Republic of Ghana. Sincere greetings, profound wishes for good health, peace, and prosperity in the new year 2017. We, members of the Diplomatic Corps, on behalf of our respective heads of states and governments, heads of international organizations and consular missions that we represent, also wish to congratulate you, Your Excellency, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, on your electoral victory, which landed you in the highest office of the President of the Republic of Ghana. Furthermore, we wish to congratulate you, Your Excellency, and through you, the government and people of the Republic of Ghana on the following. A, the holding of successful, peaceful, free, and credible presidential and parliamentary elections on 7 December 2016. It is pleasing to note that this conduct has now become characteristic of successive general elections held under the Fourth Republic in Ghana. In so doing, Ghana continues to be a great example to the entire African continent. Your Excellency, we wish at the onset to express our gratitude for the strengthening of the cooperation with our respective governments, international organizations, and consular missions during the NDC-led government under His Excellency Mr. John Dramani Mahama, former President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency Mr. Kwesi Bokwe Emisa Arthur, former Vice President, and Honorable Anna Sewa Tete, former Minister of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, other Ministers of State, and the Legislature and the Judiciary. As you assume your office, the Diplomatic Corps look forward to the strengthening even further the cooperation between our governments and your new government. Your Excellency, we, the female heads of mission accredited to Ghana, wish to express our gratitude to you, Your Excellency, for appointing Honorable Mrs. Shirley Ayoko Bochwe, another female, as the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, and at the same time to your predecessor, His Excellency Mr. Mahama, former President of Ghana, for appointing Mrs. Charlotte Consem Smith Osei as the first female Electoral Commissioner of Ghana, who conducted the general elections on 7 December 2016 so professionally and without fear or favor. These appointments, inter alia, speak volumes of your successive government's policies on gender empowerment as Ghana strives to attain the recommended quotas at the African Union and other multilateral institutions. We from the European region noted that your new government has stated that its main priorities will be to enhance a more business-friendly environment and higher cooperation. This is very welcome as it will attract more foreign investments, which will in turn create many new jobs. We are happy to be in a dialogue like that. We fully applaud the role the former President took as a global co-chair for the advocacy group for the Sustainable Development Goals. We trust that the new government will continue the focus on the SDGs and will do anything we can to support your government in achieving those goals. Your Excellency, we from the Latin American region wish to bring to your attention that today Ghana hosts 6 Latin American countries, being Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Cuba, Mexico, and Peru, that together represent the mutual growing interest in opening, channeling, and deepening relationships between Latin America and Africa, and very specifically with Ghana, one of the major players of the Western African sub-region. The Latin American countries are aware of the important role Ghana plays in West Africa. Brazil and Cuba have been accompanying Ghana almost since independence with their diplomatic presence, while Mexico did the same until 1982. From 2013 onwards, the members of the Pacific Alliance, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, and Peru opened new diplomatic missions in Accra in a joint initiative strengthening the economic and cultural relations with Ghana. Your Excellency, the Latin American missions in Ghana have as a common purpose to continue promoting South-South cooperation, to reinforce the relationship between their countries and Africa, and to ensure that we all can interact in terms of the mutual friendship, cooperation, and trade, recognizing its importance as an appropriate instrument to provide peace and stability to our people. Only in a peaceful, cooperative environment can we foster sustainable development in our respective countries and worldwide. Your Excellency, we from the Asia and the Middle East region hope that your new government's economic development initiatives will lead to the acceleration of industrialization and economic transformation process in Ghana. At the start of your term in your office, Your Excellency, you quickly appointed ministers and regional ministers inter alia, demonstrating strong leadership and an efficient work mode, which brings a breath of fresh air to the international community. We believe that the Black Star will shine again under Your Excellency's leadership. We from the African region believe that the election of you, Your Excellency, into the office of the President of the Republic of Ghana, being the son of His Excellency, Mr. Edward Akufo-Addo, who was the 3rd Chief Justice of Ghana, one of the Big 6 who served as President of Ghana in the Second Republic, just 2 months before Ghana celebrates our 60th anniversary of independence, gives you an even greater responsibility to ensure that Ghana becomes a trailblazer, yet again, this time in the economic integration of Africa through the promotion of inter-African trade and implementation of the African Union Agenda 2063. As we are all aware, the Big 6 included inter alia His Excellency Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the first President of the Republic of Ghana, one of the founder members of the Organization of African Unity, OAU, and now the African Union, AU. Your Excellency, it is interesting to note that the tripartite free trade agreement for Africa was signed on 10 June 2015 in Egypt by 26 countries from the 3 regional blocs, namely COMESA, SADC, and EAC, with a combined population of 600 million people and a gross domestic product of US 1 trillion, covering almost half of the member state of the African Union, which is intended to promote regional trade, investment, and development of cross-regional infrastructure, thereby slowly making the dream of our forefathers of integrating our continent become a reality. It is our hope that given this development, sooner rather than later, the battle against Africa's dependency syndrome may eventually be won. Your Excellency, some parts of Africa, just like some parts of the Middle East, Europe, and North America, continue to be targets of terrorism, and the probability that more countries will be targeted is high. Over the past years, the world has witnessed the increasing risk of terrorism and radicalization, which has extended beyond the affected countries in the North and West Africa and targeting even the stable ones through the recruitment of young people to be used as fighters for these terrorist groups, Islamic State in Iraq, ISIS. In this sense, this threat of terrorism is both geographically and ideologically diverse. It is spreading widely from one country to the other, and this was very clear in what some countries in the world and West Africa have witnessed lately. There is need to take this challenge of terrorism seriously. The international community must remain united in countering this threat. In our response to the threat, let us be aware that these extremist groups want to spread fear by competing in brutality. They seek to divide. In our response, we must not fall into their trap. Your Excellency, we from the IGAD region noted that Ghana is commended for making great strides in strengthening its diplomatic relations with many of Africa's regions. However, the Intergovernmental Authority of Development, IGAD, member countries are looking forward to see more Ghanaian diplomatic missions being opened in the IGAD region. The region hopes to strengthen its economic relations with Ghana and increase trade and commercial ties, benefiting from the economic potential on both sides. We from the SADC region wish to take this opportunity to express our gratitude to Ghana under the leadership of its founding fathers for the role it played in the liberation of SADC member countries. We look forward to strengthening our political and socio-economic cooperation with your government. Your Excellency, the United Nations Resident Coordinator and her team join the rest of the diplomatic corps to congratulate Ghana on the peaceful, credible presidential elections in December and congratulate President Akufo-Addo and Vice President Bawumia in their electoral victory. The professional and transparent elections and the peaceful, gracious transfer of power again earned Ghana the rightful respect of the international community and reinforced its reputation as a beacon of democracy in the region. On Ghana's international and regional role, we at the United Nations Development Program and UNDP noted that Ghana also maintains its leadership in the international community through its participation and knowledge sharing at several UN-led summits in 2016, including the Climatic Change Agreement in April in New York, where Ghana presented prioritized investment sectors to meet international obligations on climatic change. The World Humanitarian Summit in Istanbul in May. B, the UN Secretary General high-level meetings on ending AIDS in June in New York and the UN Conference on Housing and Sustainable Urban Development in October in Ecuador. C, and in 2016, Ghanaian military troops, police, and prison officers have continued to serve in UN peacekeeping missions. Ghana is the 9th largest contributor of military and police personnel in the United Nations, with 2,662 persons serving in 13 UN peacekeeping operations as of November. D, last year, Ghana took several important steps to meet its commitments to the Global Agenda 2030 for sustainable socio-economic environmental development to the African Union Agenda 2063. E, the Sustainable Development Goals were launched in Ghana at a workshop in February when the National Development Commission explained how the SDGs were being localized and integrated in Ghana's national development plans. Ghana's leadership in the decision stages of the SDGs and its achievements under the previous Millennium Development Goals were recognized by the UN Secretary General in naming then President Mahama as the co-chair of his group, Eminent Advocates for the SDGs. The UN thanked the former president for his leadership in this group during his term in office. In welcoming the new government's commitments, the diplomatic community looks forward to the government's articulation of national development plans over the next few months and stands ready to align its support to emerging national priorities on agricultural transformation to drive jobs and growth, private sector development, good governance, and domestic resource mobilization in line with Ghana's needs and expectations as a middle-income country. We applaud the government's intention to continue dialogue on constitutional reforms, political decentralization, and bringing accountability for development closer to communities. The efforts already begun to complete national identification and land registration will yield many benefits ranging from improved planning, tax base, and voter registry at home to facilitating labor market integration and reducing statelessness in the region. The international community stands ready to support the President and his entire government to effectively embrace the inclusive development agenda so as to extend prosperity and ensure access to justice to all Ghanaians. We look forward to the strengthening of the development partnership architecture that will facilitate regular, high-level strategic dialogue with development partners, thus ensuring alignment of resources and technical assistance to national policies and Ghana's international commitments on the SDGs, AU Agenda 2063, and climate change. Such partnerships would address complex development challenges such as meeting energy needs while reducing Ghana's carbon footprint, linking vocational training to private sector industrial development, bringing together multiple ministries, levels of government, and affected populations in urban development strategies, and taking forward the implementation of milestone policies on gender equality, social protection, the green economy, nutrition, child and maternal health, sanitation, HIV/AIDS, and national health insurance. The multilateral and bilateral partners look forward to constructive partnerships, facilitating South-South knowledge and sharing lessons and expanding the visibility of Ghana's continued political, economic, and social advancement. Your Excellency, last but not the least, we, the members of, and I quote, the Honorary Consular Corps in Ghana, with its current membership of 30 members, brings new dynamics in seeing the world in perspective, with Ghana being connected even more to the respective sending countries and inspiring new sustainable bilateral development growth in all sectors that should positively contribute to the government of Ghana agenda. End of quote. In conclusion, allow me to once again, on behalf of the Diplomatic Corps and on my own behalf, to extend to you, Your Excellency, our sincere wishes for prosperity and good health in the new year. Salam alaikum. Medase. Shukran. Gracias. Shen Shen. Merci beaucoup. Obrigado. Thank you.
So much. It's good to see you again. My Lady Rebecca, Mr. Vice President, Hajia Samira Bawumia, Chief of Staff, Ministers of State, Members of Parliament, the Dean and members of the Diplomatic Corps, the religious and political leaders of our country, the President of the National House of Chiefs, Utumfo's representative, and Nananum, fellow Ghanaians, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to have all of you present at this evening's event and happy to see you. Some faces are familiar, as I had the privilege of meeting them during my time as leader of Ghana's opposition, and a few others also from the now distant days of my period as foreign minister. Others I am seeing for the very first time. Nonetheless, I'm happy to see you here at the seat of the presidency, and I know that over the course of my tenure of office, we will have the opportunity to meet regularly and interact often. I am particularly touched that I have become Ghana's president in the 60th year of our independence, a symbolic year. And I hope that the remembrance of the sacrifices and efforts of our founding fathers, those who gave their lives to achieve our independence, will guide and motivate me in the discharge of this high office. And I pray for God's support. At the onset, let me thank Ambassador Mrs. Pevlin Tendai Musaka of the Republic of Zimbabwe for her leadership these past years as the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps. Your Excellency, everyone I have spoken to pays glowing tribute to you, and I can only encourage you to keep it up, and thank you for the words of congratulation and words of friendship. As you are all aware, I'm in the process of forming my government. I've been in office barely 5 weeks, and so far, so good. Parliament has approved all 36 of my ministerial nominees who have been sworn into office. The 10 regional ministers are currently being vetted, and shortly I will announce my nominees for the positions of deputy ministers. The various metropolitan, municipal, and district chief executives will soon be announced, and already a number of heads of state institutions and agencies have been appointed, albeit in acting capacities, pending the constitution of the Council of State. Yesterday, I announced the names of 11 eminent Ghanaians whom I have appointed to the Council of State, and I have sent to Parliament for its approval the names of 2 distinguished former leaders of our security services for appointment to the Council as required by our Constitution. The election of regional representatives to the Council, which will complete its composition, will take place tomorrow. I expect that by the middle of next month, God willing, the full complement of the Akufo-Addo administration will be in place, so we can mobilize all our forces to deliver on the mandate entrusted so emphatically on our shoulders by the Ghanaian people on 7th December 2016. Ghana today is facing a promising future. We have enjoyed the longest period of stability since independence. We are arguably the most stable, flourishing democracy in our region and continent, who showed on the 7th of December last dignity and serenity in the exercise of our sovereign franchise. We have a large pool of educated Ghanaians, both in Ghana and in the Ghanaian diaspora, and a hard-working population from which we can draw to drive our economic development. We have seen sustained economic growth over the last two decades. Despite the decline of the last few years, we continue to be one of the leading producers of gold and cocoa in the world. And on top of all of that, we are now an oil-producing economy. Sadly, however, the structure of our economy has not changed substantially since the era of Governor Gordon Gudgesberg, an exporter of raw materials with little or no value addition activities. This is why I've called our economy the Gudgesberg economy. My government's commitment, which I've attempted to articulate over the years, will be to inspire the transformation of the structure of the Ghanaian economy. My government's economic vision will focus on executing an integrated industrialization program with a clear bias towards supporting our small and medium-scale enterprises with access to science and technology, incentives, and markets to make them more productive and competitive. We plan on introducing programs that will boost the productivity of our agricultural sector and introduce incentives that will encourage our banks to provide affordable credit and other financial services to our small and medium-scale enterprises and launch a new wave of viable industries across Ghana. This is summed up in our slogans of one district, one factory, and one village, one dam. Our oil and gas deposits in the Jubilee, TEN, and Sankofa fields offer us the perfect opportunity to create petrochemical industries, including monetizing our gas to create a multi-billion-dollar gas feedstock industry. We have the opportunity to link together our numerous natural resources like food produce, bauxite, iron ore, oil and gas with our talents, energy, and sense of enterprise to turn our nation into an economic powerhouse in Africa, generating employment and income for our youth. My government is not going to shy away from taking the critical decisions that are necessary for the long-term interest of our people. We are going to invest heavily in building up the most important ingredient of development, the intellectual property of the people, the mind, education, 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 our sure key to success. We want to add value to our human capital, add value to our governance, add value to our public services, and add value to our infrastructure, and add value to our economy. We will govern honestly. We are determined to have Ghana lead once again our continent on two fronts: in entrenching democracy and the rule of law, and in transforming the structure of the African economy to a modern manufacturing kind that has the capacity to generate jobs for our people and create and spread wealth across the length and breadth of our vast continent. It was not for nothing that Ghana was the first black African country to break free from colonial rule. We are determined to show that we can emulate the successes of the Asian nations and thereby create a modern, prosperous nation. We believe that a world dominated by a handful of rich nations, with the majority of nations in the South languishing in poverty and misery, is not a prescription for global security. Our generation is not seeking handouts from anybody. Neither are we going to be pawns or victims. And to paraphrase Edmund Burke, the famous British statesman, it is in the interest of global equilibrium that wealth should be found everywhere. Our common humanity requires that we form partnerships with the developed world that will lead to the transformation of the lives of the Ghanaian and African peoples, a transformation that will bring the mass of our people out of poverty into a marked enhancement of the quality of their lives. To this end, perhaps now more than ever, I wish to assure you that all the alliances and friendships that we have entered into over the last 60 years are going to be developed and maintained during my time as President of the Republic. We are determined to leverage these alliances and friendships to grow our economy and nation. Ghana's engagement with other foreign African countries will be the prime focus of its foreign policy. Ghana will be very active in its membership of ECOWAS and the AU. It is in this spirit that we deployed some 208 troops as part of ECOWAS's mission to the Gambia. This mission created an enabling environment for the effective enforcement of the rule of law in the Gambia, and thus made it possible for a peaceful resolution of the electoral impasse. The decisive election of our compatriot, Thomas Kwesi Kwarteng, a professional diplomat who acted as secretary to my predecessor, President John Dramani Mahama, as deputy chairperson of the African Union Commission, and the election of Kathleen Kwarteng-Ayensu and Daniel Batidan on two legal organs of the AU at the just-ended 28th summit of the AU in Addis Ababa point to Ghana's determination to retake her pride of place amongst the Committee of Nations on the continent. We support fully the important decisions taken at this year's AU summit. Morocco has been admitted into the Union with all its implications. Proposals for institutional reforms of the AU were considered and accepted. The summit agreed on new sustainable ways of financing the AU so the body can be self-sufficient and preserve its self-respect by weaning itself of dependence on the charity of others. The Assembly of Heads of State also signed up to the Continental Free Trade Agreement, whose purpose is to ensure significant growth of intra-African trade, as well as to assist countries on the continent to use trade more effectively for growth and sustainable development. The growth of democracy in our country and continent is threatened by the spread of terrorism. Ghana stands firmly with all civilized nations in repudiating terrorism as an instrument of political action. It commits itself to doing everything within its means to support regional, continental, and global efforts to defeat this 21st century scourge. Ghana is equally committed to the reforms of the global political order. The inability of the United Nations to undertake the reforms of its institutions that will reflect the realities of our times and not the realities of the post-war world represents a manifest injustice against the peoples of Africa. We on this continent are an integral part of the global order, and global institutions should reflect this fact. For a handful of states who emerged as the dominant powers in the world after the Second World War of the 20th century to continue in the 21st century to be the sole arbiters of international security remains to us a structural deficit which the world community should no longer tolerate. I had the privilege as foreign minister of chairing the colloquium of foreign ministers that fashioned the Ezulwini Consensus, Africa's common position on UN reforms. I continue to subscribe to the goals of that consensus, and we use this occasion to call for the reform of the Security Council urgently to reflect the realities of our times. Our commitment to the values of democracy, respect for human rights, and the rule of law will continue to shape our foreign policy. I would therefore like to renew my commitment to Ghana's continued collaboration with your respective countries and international organizations in this symbolic year and in the many years ahead, in order to advance further our common pursuit of greater cooperation and to deepen and strengthen our ties of friendship. There is a new wind of optimism and revival blowing today across our country, which we are determined to harness to bring about the progress, prosperity, and happiness of the Ghanaian people. The Black Star will shine again. I wish you and your families well, and above all, success in your duties as accredited representatives of your countries and international organizations to the Republic of Ghana. Happy New Year, Afrishiapa, and may God bless us all.